Hey guys, kinggath here with another patch for Sim Settlements. This is patch 4.2.2, which I'm calling Me and the Boys. And if you didn't notice, the little prompt over top of my Raider Recruit says command. And this patch adds the ability to take some of your squad, some of your folks from your faction, and bring them with you as companions. So there's a lot to cover with this. I will just say before we get into it that you can use this even if you don't enjoy the Conqueror raid mechanics. If you just want to use this feature as a way to get a squad of NPCs from a particular faction and have to earn it. So this is one of the things where I felt like we wanted to take a more balanced approach rather than what FCOM does, which is kind of just spams you with a whole bunch of guys. We took a much more balanced approach to this. So if you love the idea of raising a little squad of companions, custom NPCs from various factions, I think this is going to be exactly what you've been waiting for. So I've got a lot to cover, but before I do, I got to do two things. First is I want to give a shout out to some patrons. This is something I'm going to start doing going forward. As anybody new who joins Patreon, I'm gonna give them some props because you guys are enabling us to do some really cool stuff with some settlements, and 2020 is going to be a huge year for us, and we've started putting some of those funds to work in some cool ways. And so big thanks to Misty Porter and Scott Whiting. Thanks for joining us on Patreon. And for any of you guys who are already patrons who want a shout out, just send me a message. I'll happily do that. I just didn't want to spam the first video I do this with 200 names, although that might be a little obnoxious. So, but any of you guys who don't want to feel left out, just let me know. And then the next thing I want to talk about is all of the different mods that you need to update today. So I've updated so many mods today. So let's go over the list. Obviously, we've got Conqueror, 3-in-1, and some settlements all have updates, but so does Workshop Framework, and that is definitely an important one to pull off some of these new features. So make sure you update all of those. In addition, I've updated the Faction Leaders Toolkit because there are some new features that you guys making faction packs can take advantage of, which you'll see shortly. Franktown versus Roundtown got a little update to take advantage of some of these new features. And the Nuka World patch for some settlements, which is an optional file on the Conqueror page. I think it's on the Conqueror page. Got an update as well. And that's to add some improvements with compatibility between Conqueror and some settlements. In particular, I fixed the issue that I should have fixed a long time ago, which is that completing open season would make you lose all of your Conqueror settlements. That should no longer be the case if you grab that Nuka World patch. And I also tried to improve the interconnectability with the way Shank works and Conqueror. So hopefully those improvements will make things a lot better for you Nuka World players. Okay, let's get into the exciting stuff, and that is how these squad mechanics work. So first up, I'll show you how you can add and remove guys. So I'm going to go up to my guy here, and if you get close enough to him, you'll get the Manage menu. Those of you guys who are Conqueror players already know about this. And I'm going to remove him from this squad just so you can see what it's like to add somebody fresh. So any of your guys, you can walk up to them, and you hit the menu, and it's named after whatever their role is. Most of them by default will be Warrior, but if we click that option, you'll see, for those of you who are familiar with the Conqueror mechanics, you're familiar with all of these options. There's a new one called Add to Squad at the bottom, and if you hit this, you'll see there's an option for personal guards. Now you might be wondering why I don't just have it say add to personal guards. That's because in the future we're going to enhance these mechanics and allow for multiple squads so that you can fine-tune control your guys in your raids. But for the sake of this initial launch and for the sake of this little companion system, it's always the personal guards or the squad you're going to be using. So personal guards means that these NPCs are going to follow you around like a companion. They'll pull their weapons out when you do. They'll stealth when you do. They'll follow your orders, etc. So shortly after hitting that, you'll see they'll play a little animation. For most faction packs, it's going to default to them doing a salute. For the raiders, we added a custom one, and faction pack authors, you can customize that salute that they do to confirm that you did bring them into your squad. And so then the next thing here is if you want to remove them, you saw what I did there is you hit remove from squad, and they will immediately start walking back to whatever is assigned as their outpost. So they remember their assignment. In fact, they're still considered a part of that settlement while they're traveling with you, so they will require resources from there. So if you have soldier needs turned on, which it is by default, they will still need the rations, equipment, and wages while they're in your party. And they will still use a bed in that particular settlement. So they're still part of that settlement, so you still have to still deal with their needs. And this is one of the ways that we're balancing the fact that you're getting this little squad with you. Another way we're balancing is that these guys, just like in raids, are mortal all the time. And you can turn that off. I'll show you a whole bunch of options that we've got set up, but they are mortal while they're in your squad. So you got to be careful. You're not just getting unlimited guys. You're going to have to take care of them. Now, one of the ways that we help them take care of themselves is that they will actually gain experience while they're with you and eventually rank up, giving them higher health pools, more damage, etc. Just the same way they rank up when they're doing raids. In fact, it's the exact same system. So if you want to take them on raids, and anybody in your personal squad does go on assaults with you, and they actually count toward the max of 15. So if you've got a squad of 5, when you go to set up an assault on a settlement, then your max will be 10 because your 5 in your squad are considered part of that raid automatically. Another thing to note here is that you can bring special units. So I've got a forged from our Conqueror storyline here in our squad. You can bring most special units. That's something faction pack authors have control over. So if they have a unit that would be really awkward for you to bring in a squad, they can disable that. But for Conqueror, I think we have it enabled on all of them so that you can bring, you know, your dogs or your forged or your cultists or whatever, bring them along for the ride and make them little squad members. Now, just like in the raids, they do not rank up. So even though if you go to the menu, you'll see they have a progress of 0%, they actually don't rank up. That is actually something I would like to change in the future, but it's going to require a pretty big overhaul to the code, so not anytime soon, but eventually we will allow for all NPC types and special units to rank up so that you can get them buffed up and make them proper units in your little squad. Now, one exception to the mortality rule is when you get an NPC up to rank 5, which takes a long time and is very challenging to do because of how easily NPCs die in this game. But if you manage to pull it off, they will become immortal just like they would in the default raid system. So it uses the exact same mechanics there. All right, so let's talk about how you're going to control this little squad, because this is something that has always made me irritated with the companion system. Is by default in the game, you can issue commands. You walk up to one of your NPCs, and of course Kit is not gonna cooperate. Come here, dog mate. There we go. But you can issue these commands like this, and you know that's interesting and all. But it's kind of cumbersome. It's not particularly useful most of the time. And I wanted to change that. I wanted to make the commanding NPCs a little more interesting. So I've created 2 items that you can craft at the city planners, or I'm sorry, the war planners desk, and they're called Squad Command Mode and Squad Command Menu. Now the Squad Command Menu I'm going to bring up here, and you're going to recognize some of this stuff. So it's got the typical things like follow, distance, and aggression that you've probably seen in a lot of companion mods, but it's also got a couple of extra things. So the first one here is the way that commands are handled. So for me, I've always been irritated by the fact that as soon as I leave command mode, my companions will come running back to me instead of staying put where I left them. And so this right here, after commands wait, which is the default setting, makes it so that after you issue a command, they will just stay there until you give them another command. So it's a good way you can send an NPC to wait there without having to explicitly hit stay, which is what you have to do with the vanilla command. You just got to issue them a second command to stay. Now it can be set to default, and you can switch this to follow, to after commands follow, and then they will behave normally like you would in vanilla, to where they come running back to you as soon as you leave command mode or shortly after they reach their destination. So that's another difference. So rather than them immediately giving up on their previous orders when you leave command mode, they will still complete their orders even if after commands is changed to follow, and then a few seconds later then they will resume following you. So it's a good way you can guarantee they actually follow your orders when you give them to them. Next up, we have a few different options here. Now, these are designed to quickly issue a series of commands as opposed to having to individually do them. So Rally on Me tells the NPCs to run to your current location and then follow, and then after that command is up, a few seconds later, resume following you. So that does all of that in one click. You don't have to go change the after commands and then issue a command to go to your position. It does all of that in one shot. Hold position, same thing. It switches them to kind of wait mode, and they will stop wherever they are, or as soon as the AI decides to update. This is one of the things that you're going to notice if you start using this system, is that the AI in this game can be a little spotty as far as how quickly it is to respond. Mostly that's just due to the limitations of the number of NPCs that can handle AI commands at any given moment. There are mods that can increase that, so if you've got a good processor in your PC, you might want to go grab a mod that increases the number of NPCs that can have their AI active at once. But for most of you guys, especially on Xbox, I think the limit is 45 NPCs loaded in any given area, and there's quite a large area that's loaded, and so the number of NPCs that can react to commands is fairly small. So if you're in an area with a lot of NPCs, a lot of enemies, or if you have a really huge squad, which I'll talk about the limits in a second, you'll find that they're not very responsive to your commands, and that's just an unfortunate part of this game engine. So then the last command here is Instant Rally. We're going to use this right now. This is one that the testing team came up with. They suggested I add this. I'm glad I did. It only works outside of combat because it would be really cheaty inside of combat, especially when you factor in the mortality of your guys. But it basically teleports everyone behind you. So you can instantly get them back. So if their AI is lost due to bad pathing or whatever, you just can't find somebody, you can instantly teleport them right behind you so they catch up. There's also a tracking system so that you can find these guys if you want to just track them down and you don't want to use that teleport option. But the teleport option I think is really nice just when you're just trying to get somewhere, or if you go into a mod cell where there's no nav mesh. There's a lot of mods like that where they didn't want to edit the base game nav mesh because it would cause compatibility issues, and so your NPCs won't be able to enter there. So using the squad command menus Instant Rally, you can teleport them all into those cells. And then we've got my personal favorite part of this system, which is the squad command mode. So rather than just issuing individual commands to NPCs, you can go into the squad command mode, and you'll see it has the name of the squad there, personal guards. You can issue this command, and all of the NPCs will follow that. Excuse me. Now, like I said, if you have the after commands wait set on, which I won't right now because I used a rally, which means that they're all set to follow me. But if I put that back on wait, they will just stay right there and wait till I give them additional orders. Now, one of the features in the vanilla game that I never realized until I started playing with this system is that you can actually leave command mode and still engage in combat. So we can continue to issue attack orders and fight and leave that up, and we can individually tell them to attack NPCs, and they will do so. They will continue to fight that NPC until they die. So it feels much more RTS-like to me. I'm really, really loving this squad command system. I hope you guys will enjoy it too. Now, that wasn't enough. I decided to take it one step further, and I added a new option because I realized when I was playing around with this that I was still going to have my idiot companions running around with me not following orders. And so you can now change it so that your companions will act as if they're members of your squad and follow all the orders that you give there. So if you head into MCM or the City Planner's holotape, you'll notice first off that one of the big changes in this patch is that there's now a separate section for Conqueror options. It was getting to be a little too busy in the Conqueror menu, so we broke it down into things that would make a lot of sense. Now you'll find some of these only have 1 or 2 options in them, but that's because over the long term we still have a good year left of development in Conqueror, so lots more options will come over that time, and we want to start breaking them down to make it easier to find those options. But in particular, there's a section that has all new settings, and that's called Personal Guards here. And there's a lot of settings to talk about here, and I'll go back to talk about those. But first, we're going to talk about this companions listen to squad commands. If you turn this on, then whenever you use this squad command mode and you give an order, it will also apply to anybody who's following you. Go! And that should be any of your companions. It should apply to pretty much any mod that allows you to add people as companions of a sort, where there's this pseudo companion mode. It should apply to them as well. Occasionally there can be, again, little delays just due to the massive complexity that goes into this. And I think certain NPCs like Kit, I think, are excluded from the system just because they don't exist inside the normal companion system. But I might be wrong on that. I haven't tested around enough with all of the different companion mods. But basically, by turning that option on, they will act as if they're a member of your squad, and so you can issue commands to all of your companions, all of your little personal guard squad at once, and they will follow those orders. So they'll move, they'll attack, etc. So that system I am actually in love with, especially once I figured out that I could continue to use it during combat and shoot. So now let's go back into those MCM options, and I'm sure you guys saw some stuff that piqued your interest that we are going to talk about here. So if we go down to personal guards again, you'll see the first thing up there is auto loot. So one of the things that I've always wanted in this game, and I know there are mods that do it, is an auto loot feature that felt kind of immersive, because I feel like the auto loot generally it's just a quality of life improvement, and it doesn't feel great, feels kind of cheaty. It's the same reason that I created salvage beacons the way I did, is that, you could just use an unlimited inventory mod, but I want my solutions to feel like they belong in the game. So one of the things I realized quickly is when we have a whole squad of guys with us, is like there's no reason that we couldn't make them do the looting for us. So they're set up to loot any kills that they do, including kills that you're a part of, and they'll go ahead and grab these things from them if you have these options on, which they are by default. So they'll grab ammo, caps, chems, and grenades. In the future, I will likely add support for food and water for you survival players. I doubt I will ever add things like equipment, just because there's so much of it that it would quickly overload your companions with stuff. And so for now, it's just these things. Perhaps maybe I'll even add junk, so I know a lot of you guys like to collect all the junk for building and whatnot. But for now, this is what it does. We'll enhance this in the future if you guys are enjoying the auto loot feature. So if you don't like it, you can turn it off. And it's semi-intelligent. The looting will kind of go in a round robin. The NPCs will take turns looting. And if an NPC has a particular ammo type, so if you have each of your squad members with a special ammo type, they will specifically loot that and leave it for the other squad members. So it's, like I said, semi-intelligent, that at least the ammo will go to the right people. And this is especially important if you decide to use some of our new balance options. So down at the bottom, these three are options that I consider balance things. These are to make this feel less cheaty. The fact that you just got a squad of guys with you all the time that are they're acting as bullet sponges, they're doing extra damage for you, and that for a lot of you that's going to feel like too much. It's not fair. And it's one of the things that struck me with FCOM was that having suddenly a squad of 9 guys felt really cheaty. So a couple of ways we balance this. First off, by default they're mortal until you get them up to rank 5. You can turn this off so you can make them immortal, so then they'll just act like normal companions. So if you're not interested in having to babysit them or super equip them or keep an eye on them, you can turn off the mortality. I personally love it. I think it's cool that they're a little bit disposable, and I'm going to show you what happens when they die, because we actually have a feature in there to help you keep track of them and make sure you don't lose their loot. The next up is share XP. This will actually make it so that your experience that you gain from kills is reduced if you've got a big squad with you. So the more NPCs you have, the more your XP will be reduced. Another balance feature so that you're basically sharing the experience with your little squad, because they do gain XP and will level up over time. So if you want to turn that option on, it is off by default. I didn't want to mess with anybody's experience without them having firm control of that, but that is an option for you hardcore players. And then lastly, this is one that I think survival and what would you call it? Scarcity players will really enjoy. That's use ammo. If you turn this on, your squad will actually use up ammo. They won't get the unlimited free ammo. And then this auto loot ammo suddenly becomes way more valuable because you can count on your troops to be self-sufficient as far as picking up ammo off of enemies that had the same type as them. But you'll probably have to frequently reload them with ammo. So this is, again, these two were off by default because I felt like a lot of players aren't going to enjoy them, but I think you hardcore scarcity players are really going to love these features. So go ahead and flip those on if you're interested in them. And then this command, companions listen to squad commands, is off by default as well, because I was concerned about interfering with other mods that offer companion type experiences. I didn't want to interfere with them because our squad command system is set at the highest priority, so it will override a lot of other mod configuration. And so I only wanted it to affect NPCs from Conqueror by default. But if you want your companions to acknowledge that as well, just go ahead and click this option on, and they will start to follow your commands. Other things worth mentioning about this system, I think the biggest one that I already covered, but just a reminder, is that the personal guards will reduce the number of people you can send on your raids. So if you're into the Conqueror gameplay of conquering settlements, note that does reduce your number. That is intentional. I don't remember if I covered this. I've been talking so long, but the number of squad members you can have is 3 by default, and then 1 additional per 10 levels, plus 1 additional slot per rank of the inspirational perk, and you'll get notifications whenever you get a new slot, so you'll know you can go grab another recruit and add them to your squad. And that caps out at 15, so you can have a total of 15 guys running around, plus whatever companions you have with you, including if you have unlimited companion framework. So you could have quite the little army running around with you if you want it. You obviously don't have to, and the less guys you have with you, the quicker the ones you have will rank up. So, maybe you don't want to take all of them at once, but I think it's a lot of fun to have a big death squad and go mowing through some areas, especially with certain mods. There are some of those zombie mods, things like the techno mutants, where there's just enemies for days, and it can be really fun to just have a constant war going on. So like I said, this system, you could absolutely use it without really engaging in the Conqueror mechanics. If you just want to grab a faction pack, go build a war planner's desk in any empty settlement, and the settlers will be replaced by faction NPCs, and you can just grab them into your personal squad and go to work with them, running around leveling them up. So if you're interested in this mechanic but don't really enjoy the Conqueror gameplay, I think this system could still be a lot of fun for you, so go check that out. All right, I think that covers the squad mechanics. There's probably something I'm not covering. I did a lot of patch notes. There's a ton of stuff that I didn't talk about in here that was added to this patch. A lot of fixes, a lot of quality of life improvements. So go check out the full patch notes. There's probably some stuff about this squad system I forgot to cover that is covered in those patch notes as well. And yeah, I think that covers it. So before we end, let's do t-shirt giveaways. So last patch note video, I changed the way we do the giveaway, and ironically, the person who was chosen to win didn't claim it. So this week we're giving away 2 t-shirts, and if you are interested in earning that t-shirt, you're going to want to leave a comment below with a particular hashtag, and that hashtag is squad goals. Yeah, I know, a little douchey. Some of you probably hate that phrase, but it's so perfect for this patch. So hashtag squad goals in your comment. Don't just make that your whole comment. You got to have something else in there. Comment on Sim Settlements. Tell us what you love about it. Tell us what you hate about it. Report a bug. Whatever you want. Just put something interesting, funny, entertaining, whatever, in a comment and include hashtag squad goals. And I will randomly draw 2 people on Monday. So keep an eye out for me to respond to your hashtag squad goals comment. And I will be giving you the method for you to claim your t-shirt on there. So that's what happened last week. The person who was drawn probably just didn't see my comment. So definitely check back on Monday to see if I replied to your comment on this video. All right, guys, I hope I didn't miss anything. There was so much to cover there. Go download and update all your mods because I updated a ton of them today. And, oh, I remember I was going to show you guys the tracking. That's what I forgot. So, first off, we're going to kill a squad member here. Sorry, lady, you got to die. And what will happen here is you'll get a little notice in the corner that one of your guards died. And then there's a map marker on them. And as soon as you get close enough to loot them, it goes away. So that was a little quality of life thing that I came up with because I realized I was going to get really irritated if I have to constantly toggle on and off the markers, but I also wanted to know when my guys died so that I could get their loot. So that obviously won't come up if you turn off the mortal, and you can also disable that by disabling this squad tracker here. So that's an extra quest that will tag when guards die. Another way you can track, if you don't want to use the cheating teleport option to bring them back to you with instant rally, if you go into the normal tracking section of Conqueror, which this was here from a previous patch, but I've added one more option under tracking called personal guards. If you go ahead and kick that on, then you'll see that in addition to the tracking recently killed ones, that the squad tracker also has all of your guards marked so that you can just see where they are on your map if you want to track them down. Like I can see now that one of my guys got left behind, good old AI bugs. So that would prompt me then to go ahead and hit the instant rally to teleport them back to me. And actually that might be a map marker from something else. I actually didn't even check if I have. Oh, I got all these dang Creation Club things on. So it looks like that's actually another quest objective. But if you don't want, this is not enabled by default because we have the instant rally. I figure you don't really need to track where they are. But if you want it, if you like to see the map markers where they are, you have that option to turn on. And you can turn that off again and it will still leave up that quest so you can still track when your guys recently die. So if we come back in here, go to tracking, where are you? Tracking, turn off personal guards, and then that will hide those markers once again. So yeah, I got to figure out why. Yeah, it looks like that other one way over there, 30 yards away, was one of them. I'll go look into that. If it's a bug, I'll get it fixed ASAP. All right, guys. That should cover everything. So thank you once again to my patrons. If any of you guys wants to join up with that, we will love additional support because we are going to be doing a lot of big things this year. So stay tuned for more stuff like big crazy mechanics like this squad system. I'm really kind of trying to do all of the big things I've dreamed of in Fallout and get those into these mods in some way or another. All right, guys, don't forget to read the patch notes and take care and enjoy the mods.